Please rewind this cassette.
Hello, Rewinders, my beautiful babies, you. Let's look at some box office and some franchises returning to glory. Particularly the horror genre has returned to glory in creating sequels that just last for decades. Think about all these franchises that haven't been able to recreate success from the past. Think about Indiana Jones. Think about where Marvel's at right now. Think about the nostalgia bait that we see so much. Now, there's exceptions, obviously. Top Gun Maverick did very well. But typically, when a franchise starts to peter out, for example, the recent Fast and the Furious films are not making billion-dollar grosses like they were for a little while there, particularly Furious 7 and The Fate of the Furious. It seems like 700 million's the cap. I mean, did anyone really think the Insidious franchise was going to come back again after being gone now for a little while? A lot of credit here has to go to James Wan and Lee Winnell for just creating an IP that has been able to stick around. Because it's weird, they tried this with Saw. Saw came out with, what was that movie, Spiral, with Chris Rock, Sam Jackson, and it bombed and nobody liked it. But the Scream franchise is a good example of this on the other end, though, where the Scream series was pretty much done. I mean, after Scream 4 underperformed, even though fans generally liked the film, a lot of people, I think, thought the only thing they're going to do is reboot the series. Then they make a reboot sequel, and now we have a new Scream franchise led by Jenna Ortega, whether you like it or not. And they're still made on relatively low budgets. Horror is just so dominant in this way that you can make these films for low budgets, and even though years go by, you're like, all right, let's get Patrick Wilson back. Let's make another Insidious movie. Let's make another Conjuring movie. And then you get stuff like this: $33 million opening weekend for Insidious: The Red Door, $68 million worldwide. I'm sure the budget for this film is like, I mean, it's probably okay budget. I'm sure the actors got paid more than they've been paid previously. But let's just look at this franchise. This is the first Insidious, 2010. Now, I want to make this clear before I go too deep into this. I've never liked the Insidious franchise. I think the first film is vastly overrated by the horror community. I remember at the time everyone was like, this is a new horror classic. I didn't agree with that. Yes, it has two of the most iconic jump scares of the 21st century. Yes, there's some good performances. Yes, the camera work is nice, and the Tiny Tim song is iconic and all that. But I really thought it was like C tier, and I'm a James Wan fan. I much prefer The Conjuring, the first movie, to the first Insidious, but it can't be denied. This was a big return for him and Lee Winnell. This really did kind of put them back on the map. After their careers, really, we didn't know where they were going after Saw. This was made for $1.5 million, opened to $13 million, made $100 million worldwide, and became a very, very big film on home video. By the time Insidious Chapter 2 comes out, The Conjuring's already out. So James Wan's riding off the Conjuring hype, which has a $20 million film that makes $300 million worldwide. Then this comes out with the $5 million budget, makes $161 million worldwide on a $40 million opening. This is 10 years ago, mind you. Okay, so then we get Insidious Chapter 3, which I believe Lee Winnell took over the directing reins on this one. $10 million budget, $112 million worldwide. But notice the opening weekend there, $22 million. And then we had Insidious: The Last Key in 2018, which opened to $29 million, shockingly strong, considering after the third one. $10 million budget, $167 million worldwide. So we haven't gotten an Insidious film now in 5 years. And here we go with The Red Door. The Door! And boom, $33 million opening weekend, which is weird considering the other one opened at 40 10 years ago, but you can't look at things that way. So that's just amazing. That's just really impressive. Blumhouse is the dominant studio when it comes to creating these franchises on a lower budget, propping up big directors, getting good actors, and being able to maintain these franchises. Because that's the thing to point out here with this. The original film came out 13 years ago. Okay, 13 years. And this is what, the fifth film in the series? And this is once again going to clearly make like $150 million, if not a little bit more. So they're going to make money every time. The brand is still there. People still care about this. We see other generic films like this come out that don't have the title Insidious, and sometimes they don't do as well. So it's a lesson to be learned. Maybe make lower budget IP franchises. I get that it's easier with horror than it is to do with comedy, although I don't know why a lot of comedies don't cost $5 to $10 million. Or even, let's maybe not a superhero film, but an action franchise. The first John Wick movie only cost $20 million. Now it's a $400 million worldwide box office smash, the fourth film. The real lesson here is just don't give up on your IP. Don't destroy the IP either, though. Don't go anti-fan. Don't get too crazy with the spending. I get that a superhero film's going to cost more money than a lot of these other films, but I'm not really talking about superhero films. I'm talking about some other IPs that have come out recently. And the biggest problem with a lot of them, the Fast and the Furious franchise is one that immediately comes to mind, is they just spend too much damn money on these things. I mean, I think the new Fast and Furious movie costs like $300 million or something like that. Something crazy because Vin Diesel makes a crazy amount of money. Everybody makes money. Let's look at Fast X. I'm pretty sure the budget's like $300 million and it's made $700 million. You know, just why can't a Fast and the Furious movie cost $150 million? It would look like such a big box office success right now otherwise. And you can blame COVID, but the budgets were already high anyway. And the Transformers franchise, this movie cost $195 million. If this movie cost $145 million, the $400 million worldwide would look pretty good right now. Spider-Man's a good example, right? $100 million budget, $643 million. Sound of Freedom, I need to just make a separate video on from Angel Studios and how huge this movie's done. Although I've heard rumors that's from churches purchasing tickets in bulk, but I'm not sure if that's true or not. And then look at Indiana Jones here, $252 million worldwide. That's pretty bad. But once again, Insidious, Lee Winnell, James Wan. Lee Winnell made The Invisible Woman, which was a successful film. It was one of the last big movies that came out right before COVID happened, the lockdowns happened. But kudos to both of them for creating franchises consistently within a subgenre. I don't think they don't get enough credit for Blumhouse's success because I think Saw is like the proto Blumhouse. I think it sets up the formula for Blumhouse, the Saw franchise, release these low budget horror IPs every year, make your money back, and then do the next one and do 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and spin-offs if possible. So even though I'm not a huge fan of the Insidious franchise, and I've liked stuff that the filmmakers have done, and I like the actors. I really like Patrick Wilson quite a bit. I like Rose Byrne. Kudos to the studio for, I don't know, just being smart with this. More business like this, I think, is a key to keeping Hollywood around. More low budget franchises that can make $150 million make you money instead of chasing that $1 billion grosser every time. I know you don't make as much money all at once. I know that's the temptation, but you're also not losing hundreds of millions of dollars at the same time. So, can't there be a balance?